So you may have heard that in the wake of Release the Snyder Cut actually working, a bunch of Star Wars fans have been campaigning for Solo: A Star Wars Story to get a sequel or to have a continuation on Disney+. So I'm going to break down this whole hashtag make Solo 2 happen thing. I'm going to tell you if I support it or not, but I must warn you, this whole thing is way wilder with some crazy angles that I don't think a lot of people are talking about. So let's break it down. Hey, real quick plug, Den of Nerds fans, we are starting an epic trivia contest tournament called the Nerd Card Showdown. 8 teams of awesome nerds will compete in our trivia contest once a week in a double elimination tournament deciding who will be the ultimate nerd. The first contest will air June 3rd at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our live streaming channel. You better be there. Okay, so I want to be clear up front. You might not like what I have to say in this video.
What you talking about, Mr. D?
It might make you feel uncomfortable. It might make you feel angry.
I'm always angry.
It might even confuse you, like a lot. But whatever you're thinking and however you're going into this video, I would just ask that you watch it the whole way through, or at least most of the way through until I make all of my points, and then decide for yourself how you feel. That's pretty much all I'm asking of people. This one might be controversial. Okay, so first up, without getting too sidetracked on this, I just feel like it's important to sort of put this forward. Solo: A Star Wars Story is my least favorite Star Wars movie ever. It's the only Star Wars movie that I've actually only seen once. I really didn't like that movie, but that's not what this video is about, and that actually has very little bearing on whether or not I'm going to support the Make Solo 2 Happen hashtag. Now, a big crazy aspect to this whole thing that, again, I don't think many people want to even talk about is the fact that Solo itself was already, for many, considered to be a battleground for a fan movement. There were a bunch of Star Wars fans that really didn't like The Last Jedi and really didn't like what was going on with Lucasfilm, and they decided to not support Solo because of that, to make a statement to that studio. And frankly, most of the narratives around this situation are like stupid and confusing to me. Like, did the people that really didn't like The Last Jedi, that wanted to hurt Solo, did they have something to do with it? Some people say absolutely yes. They were the people that hurt Solo. They caused Solo to bomb. It was a big wake-up call for Lucasfilm, and it had very little to do with Solo. It had more to do with The Last Jedi. Some people say no. Some people say no, it had a very small effect on it. There was a bad marketing from Disney. There was the fact that there was oversaturation, not just among Star Wars to have another Star Wars movie come out in less than 5 months, but also there was just a ton of movies coming out that month. I believe Deadpool 2 and Infinity War, if I'm remembering correctly, both came out in that month, okay? Now, the most reasonable people out there acknowledge that it's likely a little bit of all of those stories. There were multiple factors that caused Solo to bomb in the box office. I think if you're saying that the people that didn't like The Last Jedi had nothing to do with it, you're just crazy. There were people, whether they were very vocal online or not, that I think didn't go see that movie because of The Last Jedi. But I think it's totally fair to say that Lucasfilm really did screw up the marketing. They did put it in a bad spot. That movie should have come out in December, would have done much better. I think there's a myriad of factors. But again, among the reasonable people and the people that are saying there's probably all these factors, and even the people that think that they, hurt the film because they didn't like The Last Jedi, or people that didn't like The Last Jedi hurt the film, even those people, I think, can admit that Solo's box office has very little to do with the quality of the movie. Now, I said at the top, I really don't like this movie, and that's true. I really don't. But I've talked to many Star Wars fans, and it's far less divisive than The Last Jedi. I think a lot of Star Wars fans really, really like Solo, and so I think it's pretty fair to walk away and say, hey, the box office did not have a lot to do with the quality of the movie. But of course, the lesson learned from Lucasfilm, or what they decided to do after that happened, is scrap Solo movies, right? They scrapped the Boba Fett film, which was being redeveloped and was going to come from James Mangold. Yeah, they scrapped that because of Solo. They also scrapped the Obi-Wan film, and you're like, well, wait, no, the Obi-Wan film was going to become a show. Look, it got scrapped as a film project because of what happened with Solo. That's documented, okay? So the studio's response to Solo bombing was to actually retract the Star Wars content. There was this narrative of Star Wars oversaturation or Star Wars fatigue, that was part of the problem, right? I think most reasonable people, again, can look at that and say, like, that is not, those things aren't matching up, right? Those things aren't matching up. Even if there was a ton of different reasons for Solo to not be successful, deciding to not make spin-off movies, deciding to restrict the content and pull back is not necessarily the answer. Again, these are actually things that I think the majority of fans, no matter what side of the fan war or whatever, I think most of the fans can actually agree on that. So fast forward to like last freaking week, right? When Release the Snyder Cut actually comes into its full fruition, AT&T shocks the world and decides, yes, we are going to release the Snyder Cut. It's an absolutely crazy thing, a huge win for fans and a huge win for people that were, supporting that movement for over 2 years. They were really, really happy about that. Now, in the wake of that, the hashtag Make Solo to Happen began to grow and get more buzz. It trended on Twitter yesterday. It was a big deal. A lot of people were pushing for it. And there's a lot of media sites writing articles about that movement today as I am recording this. Now, I actually have no problem with the movement itself, seeing what happened with the Snyder Cut and then trying to come forward and be like, hey, if they can do it, we can do it. Let's get this thing going and then get the buzz out there. And it's true, right? I mean, you look at the Snyder Cut and you're like, damn, man, fans can really voice their opinions. Well, I'm going to voice my opinion. So I have no problem with the movement itself. However, there's another aspect to this which is uncomfortable. Not a lot of people want to talk about, but it's totally real. And that would be that certain people out there are using the hashtag Make Solo to Happen movement as a way to fight against their perceived enemies in toxic fans and the people that supported Release the Snyder Cut. I'm not going to name specific people. I'm not going to put specific tweets up or anything like that, but they're not that hard for you guys to find. You will see a lot of passive aggressive posting talking about how this is a good movement. This is a movement of fans that are not toxic, and all these sort of what I call poke the bear type comments. And so it seems like there's a contingent of people that are using this movement and the support of this movement to somehow further this perceived war, this perceived battle between what they call toxic fans, right? And the very fact that Solo itself originally was, again, considered a battleground for fan movement and consumer movements, you can see how this is just way more complicated and way more weird than you might have first realized. So this is just my opinion, but honestly, I don't think it's that radical of opinion. I think if you look online, you can clearly see, like if you sift through the BS, you can see what's going on. They're definitely weaponizing the positivity of this movement and trying to just fight this weird battle. And I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. It's so gross to me that it makes me want to not support the Make Solo to Happen movement. So you might be confused by that because you might be like, wait a minute, Josh, you've been very positive about Disney Star Wars. And for the most part, I have. I've been very positive, although I've been pretty critical as well. But I think you would probably consider me to be one of those fair, positive people talking about Disney Star Wars. I wasn't super bothered by The Last Jedi. I wasn't super bothered by The Rise of Skywalker. I think Lucasfilm can and should do much better. But I've not been one of these people that really dogs on them or is really bothered by it, okay? So you might say, why would you want to not support Make Solo to Happen just because it's sort of in this weaponization? And I honestly think, and I'm just speaking like as real as I possibly can, I think that's because people want to fit me into this little war. They want to fit me into this narrative thing. And if you really know me, if you've really been watching the content, you know the thing I really hate is the narrative war, is fitting things into a narrative, is to get more conflict because the conflict will spur up views and clicks and ad revenue and buzz and likes on Twitter and all that stuff. That's the stuff I really don't like. And I think both sides engage in that. However, I've thought a lot about this. And despite that being, in my opinion, a reality, despite me really feeling that way and sort of seeing through the BS, I've decided I actually am going to support hashtag Make Solo to happen. And not only that, but I'm actually saying to you, person out there that supported Release the Snyder Cut and got Release the Snyder Cut to actually be a thing, I'm actually going to go out on a limb and suggest that you also support hashtag Make Solo 2 happen. And the reason is actually because I think the best way to fight against this sort of weird culture war, narrative-based bullcrap is to rise above it. Okay? So despite this thing, in my opinion, being weaponized and being used very disingenuously by a lot of different people, that doesn't change the fact that this movie was hurt not because of the actual movie. If you're one of those people that thought like the message needed to be sent, I think the message was sent. I also think that Lucasfilm kind of screwed up with how they reacted to it. And I think it's super unfair to the many, many Star Wars fans that actually liked Solo. And so here I am as a person that really doesn't like Solo. Like, I really don't like it. And I really think and am frustrated by the fact that people are weaponizing this movement to try to create some rift in fandom. Despite all of that, I think the move is to be the bigger person, to look at the facts and to realize that, hey, this is just another fan movement where fans are trying to get something they want, and something that they want was taken away from them by the studio, not by like anybody that's in this weird fan war or any of that bullcrap. The studio took that away from fans. They clearly had enough writing and enough footage and ideas to make a Solo trilogy, and they scrapped it because of the way it performed in the box office. In my opinion, they learned the wrong lesson. And I think that if you can wrap your head around why it would be important to support this movement, just like the Release the Snyder Cut movement, I think you'll get there, man. I think you'll understand it. You'll get where I'm coming from. Beat it by actually not being toxic. Beat it by recognizing that this is, for a lot of fans, it's just about a good movie they wanted to see. But now, and because mostly I think people might be curious, let me just briefly talk about why I really didn't like Solo and why I would still actually watch whatever they do with it in the future on Disney+. I mean, look, I don't want to dog on it too much, but to me, Solo is a member-berry checklist of things in a film that we really didn't need in the first place. Like, I never needed to know what young Han Solo was doing. I never needed that. And the way they did it just felt so checklisty and weird. On top of that, the movie itself to me is just way too dark. All of the planets are just muddy and dark. There's just like a lot of things that I'm not super crazy about for the film. Having said that, if they took those exact characters in that exact time period and continued to tell stories there, like on Disney Plus in a streaming platform capacity, I would totally watch it. And I don't think I would have as much of like a bad feeling about it, even if I didn't like it. I think one of the things that Star Wars struggled with, they think it's Star Wars fatigue. I think it's actually the opposite. I think Disney was actually putting Star Wars content on too much of a pedestal and making fans feel like this was it. Like, Episode 7, Episode 8, Episode 9. How are you not supposed to just get super invested in that and feel like it's the only thing that matters? And I think that was their mistake. Not like making too much content. The truth is, even if you don't like an MCU movie, don't worry, there's 2 more coming in the same year that, you know, you have chances to like, right? And this is true. I didn't like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, but I didn't throw a freaking fit about it because I knew there were other MCU movies coming down the pipeline that I probably would enjoy. I think the Star Wars problem is that they elevated that. They put it on a pedestal, including with Solo. If Solo had just released to Disney Plus, I don't think it's on a pedestal. I don't think it's much like oomph, and it's not as ceremonial. There's not as much expectations. It doesn't matter as much if you don't like it. And so in some weird way, I actually do want more Solo, and I want it on Disney Plus. I think that would be kind of cool, man. I didn't mind Donald Glover or Alden Ehrenreich in that film. There were things that I didn't like about it. And the more I think about it, I think it was really just the fact that, like, that was the Star Wars at that point. When I looked at it, I was like, man, that's just weak for what I want the Star Wars in theaters to be. So that's basically where my thoughts are with it. But again, just to be real, I 100% support Make Solo 2 happen. I think Disney should listen to the fans, and they should make more Solo content for Disney Plus. That was a really weird video with a lot of different weird angles. So I certainly want to know what you think about this. Let us know your thoughts about this whole situation in the comment section below. And now let's shout out Corby Daniel. Yes, indeed, it is the mutant whiz kid that is rumored to be in the tournament in Shang-Chi. So shout out to you, Corby, and a sea of people thinking it was Omega Red. You got the correct answer. Well done, sir. And now let's ask another nerd card question before we get out of here. I want to know, what was the name of the pilot for Beckett's crew in Solo, a Star Wars story? Answer that question in the comment section below. If you absolutely need more nerdy content in your life, click or tap over there to watch some more of our videos, or come on by our live streaming channel where we live stream every day, Monday through Friday, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like this video if you liked it. If you want to take your support to the next level and join the list of awesome people you see below, check out our Patreon for some behind-the-scenes content. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.